scores.
Ed Westfall.
3 goals in 20 seconds? Easy. Coming back 2 months after being diagnosed with cancer to score goals? No problem. Here are the 12 greatest moments in NHL history. Number 12, Bill Mosienko scores the fastest 3 goals in NHL history. On March 23, 1952, Chicago's Bill Mosienko set an NHL record for the 3 fastest goals scored by one player when he scored 3 goals in 21 seconds against the New York Rangers at New York's Madison Square Garden. Gus Bodner assisted on all 3 Chicago goals. Lorne Anderson was the Rangers' goalie on that season-ending night for the Blackhawks. They defeated the Rangers 7-6 in front of a small crowd of 3,254. Mosienko almost scored a 4th goal just 45 seconds later, but his shot clanked off the post. Mosienko's magical night happened 70 years ago, and his record for the 3 quickest goals still holds today. Number 11, playoff comebacks of 3-0. It's only happened 3 times in NHL history, and each one was memorable. Teams behind 3-0 in a postseason series came back to win 4 straight games. The Maple Leafs were the first club to do the trick in the Stanley Cup final against the Detroit Red Wings in 1942. Toronto won the Cup with a 3-1 victory in the final game at Maple Leaf Gardens. The New York Islanders trailed the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-0 in a quarterfinal series in 1975 before winning 4 straight games. Chico Resch shut out the Pens in the deciding game at Pittsburgh, which the Isles won 1-0 on Ed Westfall's goal. When falling behind the Flyers 3-0 in the next round of the playoffs, the Isles forced a 7th game, only to lose at the Spectrum in Philadelphia after Kate Smith sang "God Bless America." Finally, in the Eastern Conference semifinals in 2010, the Philadelphia Flyers fell down the Boston Bruins 3-0 before winning 4 straight. The deciding game, a 4-3 decision in Boston, sealed Philadelphia's miraculous comeback. Number 10. Ace Bailey benefits from the first All-Star game. On February 14, 1934, the greatest players in the NHL met at Maple Leaf Gardens for an exhibition game to benefit former Leaf star Ace Bailey and his family. Bailey's career was cut short 2 months before when he was attacked from behind by Boston's Eddie Shaw and broke his head on the ice. Bailey was on the verge of death. He recovered, but doctors advised him not to play hockey again. The benefit game between the Leafs and the All-Stars was won by Toronto 7-3, raising over $21,000 for the cause. Aurel Joliat, Eddie Shaw, Howie Morenz, Nels Stewart, Red Dutton, Ching Johnson and Lionel Conacher were among the stars in the game. The event's highlight was a handshake between Bailey and Shaw, which was captured in a famous photograph. Number 9. Jacques Plante is the first goaltender to wear a mask. It's difficult to believe that there was a time when NHL goalies didn't even wear masks. On November 1, 1959, Hall of Famer Jacques Plante was the first modern-era goalie to adopt a mask. Andy Bathgate's powerful shot from the Rangers injured Plante in the face. The game was delayed as Plante received sutures, and he refused to return on the ice unless Canadiens coach Toe Blake allowed him to play with a mask he wore during practice. Blake had refused permission for Plante to wear the mask during actual games because he was concerned it might impair his vision. But teams didn't carry backup goalies back then, so Plante refused to play without it. The Canadiens won the game, and Plante continued to win while wearing the mask. Blake couldn't deny Plante's request at this point, and a new era in NHL history had begun. Number 8. The Rocket scores 50 in 50. Maurice "The Rocket" Richard became the first player in NHL history to score 50 goals in a season on the final day of the 1944-45 season. The goal came off goalie Harvey Bennett during a 4-2 Montreal triumph against the Boston Bruins in Boston. Because the season was 50 games lengthy back then, Richard's record of 50 goals in 50 games established the norm by which goal scorers were henceforth assessed. The Rocket was the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer when he retired. The league instituted the Rocket Richard Trophy in 1999, which was given to the player who scored the most goals the previous season. Number 7. Bobby Orr hands the cup over to Boston. Bobby Orr's overtime Stanley Cup winning goal against the St. Louis Blues in Game 4 of the 1970 finals remains one of the most famous moments in NHL history. The famous photo of Orr flying through the air when Blues defenseman Noel Picard tripped him shortly after he placed the puck in the net was immortalized. The goal earned the Bruins their first Stanley Cup victory in nearly 30 years and proved that the highly regarded defenseman from Parry Sound, Ontario was truly the best player of his generation. That year, Orr received the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP, and he would win it again 2 years later when he guided Boston to another championship. But no image of Orr has stayed with hockey fans longer than this moment of triumph. Unlike the Bruins fans, we don't require a flying goal to love you. Just subscribing to our channel guarantees our eternal love to you. Number 6. Bobby Hull scores goal number 51. No player had surpassed Rocket Richard's 50-goal total since 1944-45. Boom Boom Geoffrion tied the record in 1960-61, despite playing in 14 more games than Richard, while Blackhawk star Bobby Hull also hit 50 goals in 70 games in 1961-62. Hull, though, became the first player in NHL history to score 51 goals in a season on March 12, 1966, against the New York Rangers. For the occasion, the Chicago Stadium audience gave him a long standing ovation. Hull finished the season with 54 goals, a record that was not broken until the league expanded from 6 to 12 teams. He concluded his NHL career with 610 goals and another 303 in the WHA. Number 5. 1967 NHL Expansion. The Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, Boston Bruins, New York Rangers, Detroit Red Wings and Chicago Blackhawks remained in the NHL after the Brooklyn Americans dissolved after the 1941-42 season. From 1942-43 to the end of the 1966-67 season, the league was dominated by the original 6 franchises. The Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, Minnesota North Stars, St. Louis Blues, Los Angeles Kings and California Seals joined the NHL in 1967. The original 6 period had come to an end, and the NHL now had a franchise west of Chicago and south of New York. Following a national television deal with CBS in the United States, the league began to acquire traction across North America. There are now 30 NHL teams, with 23 in the United States and 7 in Canada. Number 4. Mario Lemieux returns after cancer treatment. In 1992-93, Mario Lemieux was on his way to yet another record-breaking season. Many considered him to have eclipsed Wayne Gretzky as the best player in the game. During the season, however, Lemieux was disabled by Hodgkin's disease. Cancer endangered not only his season and career, but also his life. Super Mario was able to overcome cancer and make a triumphant comeback to the ice. The last day of Lemieux's radiation treatments was March 2, 1993, less than 2 months following his diagnosis. Later that night, Lemieux was in the lineup for the Penguins against the Flyers at the Spectrum, where he scored a goal and assisted on another. When the captain of their cross-state opponents returned to the ice, Philadelphia fans, who have a reputation for being among the hardest in sports on visiting players, gave him a standing ovation. Despite losing a significant amount of time due to radiation treatments, Lemieux concluded the 1992-93 season with 69 goals and 160 points in only 60 games. Number 3. Gretzky scores 50 goals in 39 games. In 1945, Rocket Richard set a record by scoring 50 goals in 50 games. It was matched by Mike Bossy in 1980-81, but not surpassed until Wayne Gretzky shattered the mark in 1981-82, scoring 50 goals in 39 games. On December 30, 1981, a game between the Edmonton Oilers and the Philadelphia Flyers set the final new record. Gretzky scored 5 goals in that game, including an empty netter, to surpass the legendary 50-goal total. Nobody else in the league had scored 30 goals when the Great One reached 50. Gretzky recorded an NHL record 92 goals and 212 points by the end of the 1981-82 season. The 92-goal record still holds today, although the NHL's all-time leading scorer broke his own mark in 1985-86, accumulating 215 points. Nobody has come close to Gretzky's record since, and it is still the yardstick against which other goal scorers are compared. Number 2. Montreal wins its 5th Stanley Cup in a row. The Montreal Canadiens did something no other NHL team had done before or since on April 14, 1960. They won their 5th Stanley Cup in a row. The Montreal Canadiens blanked the Toronto Maple Leafs 4-0 at Maple Leaf Gardens to sweep the series in what turned out to be Maurice the Rocket Richard's final game. The 1960 Canadiens had a long roster of all-time greats. In addition to the Rocket, players such as Jacques Plante, Doug Harvey, Tom Johnson, Henri Richard, Boom Boom Geoffrion, Dickie Moore and Jean Bouliveau helped the Habs win their 5th consecutive cup. Montreal won 4 straight Stanley Cups from 1976 to 1979, and the New York Islanders won 4 from 1980 to 1983, but no one has matched the Canadiens' continuous excellence from 1956 to 1960. Number 1. Gretzky passes Gordy and scores 802 points. On March 23, 1994, Wayne Gretzky passed his childhood idol Gordie Howe to become the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer. It was the 802nd goal of the Great One's career, coming in a 6-3 loss to the Vancouver Canucks at the Fabulous Forum in Inglewood, California. Kirk McLean was the unfortunate goalie. Since then, no one has come close to Gretzky. If you loved the video and want more, we recommend clicking the video on the screen to check part 2 of the greatest moments in NHL history.